I've slept like in 2 hours the last 2 days, so I'm pretty exhausted. So you got to bear with me.
Hey, no problem. Hey, how'd your interview go on WGN this morning?
That's a lot of the reason. It went really good, and I'm hoping to have a link up for that pretty soon. That was my second time on there. I was on there promoting Just Another Day in Hell last year, and after a few days, he had a link up there with some video and shit like that. So I'm hoping for the same. That went really good.
Good, good. It's a hell of a
Not
time.
not as good as this one's going, but
Well, we got off to one hell of a start tonight.
well, I was a little confused because you were playing one of my songs, and then suddenly everything just jammed, and then it's really strange. It's happened before. Then a commercial will start playing. They're doing all that now. Where it's like they got these commercials coming up.
Right. Well, I guess they got to pay the bill somehow, but
Yeah, maybe that was just on my end. Was that everybody else too? I don't know.
well, I was
Not that
asking.
bad,
Everybody else was saying it was fine, and then
Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
you know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, good to talk to you, man.
Same here, but you know what though? We're all getting like weird. I call it the blog TV treatment because it's like everybody's got weird stuff happening tonight. Like the chat jammed up a little bit, and then somebody else had some kind of weird issue. I forget what that was, but
Yeah. Oh, we've all got weird issues.
And we're like 20 minutes into the show, so I don't know if that bodes well for us tonight or not.
Well, it's all good.
Oh man,
We're
Pete,
just hanging out.
yeah, it's good to have you here, man. It's good to have
Good to
you
be
here.
here, buddy. Good to be here, man. Thanks for promoting the new album. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I could sit and play your music all day long, man. You know that.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I can always use all the help I can get. Doesn't get any easier. I've been hacking away. It's same old game, just keeps going.
Yeah, yeah. But
Something like car. Well, I don't know whether to say last night or this morning, but yeah, I basically been gone the last couple of days between this interview and some other shows and stuff, and it's kind of brutal sleeping in the car in the wintertime, but
ugh,
I did it this morning.
ugh.
But I'm fucking exhausted, yeah, but it's okay. I might have to smoke a little pot or something. I don't know what I'm going to do here.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. So I guess your probation's up.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm talking to you for the first time. I think last time we talked, yeah, this is the first time I think I'm talking to you as a free man. But I don't want to rehash that story.
Nah, nah. Well,
Let's
besides,
talk about,
I got the.
let's talk about new
recording.
stuff.
Let's talk about new stuff now.
Yeah.
When we talked, actually one of the first times we talked to you, Just Another Day in Hell. You just finished it, and you were in the process of mailing it out, and you said it was going to be your last CD.
Did I say that?
You said Just Another Day in Hell was going to be your last CD,
Oh,
and
okay.
then this year you come out with Give It Time. And I
Well-
truly thought that Just Another Day in Hell was going to be one tough ass act to follow, and damn it, brother, you did it.
Well, thanks, man. That's not for me to say, but if you think so, I'll take that. Yeah, I think you never know, but I think I agree. I like this one. It's really it's the album I've needed to make for a while. I was telling Brian on WGN this morning. As we were discussing this, that about half the songs on it have been kicking around for years. When I record an album, nothing is exactly brand new. Because I like to write songs to see if they'll stand the test of time.
Right.
I don't rush anything in the studio, and when I was working on Give It Time, I was surprised. I surprised myself that I hadn't put some of those on Just Another Day in Hell. But I think what happened was Just Another Day in Hell just kind of unfolded on its own, and it kind of pushed those songs onto the back burner because all the shit I was going through. when I went in the studio just another day in hell, I had about 11 songs in my life. I ended up with 18, because I just kept writing them, because based on things that were happening to me, and that's why I ended just another day in hell, because it was, and kind of push those other songs aside. But that's okay. Good things come to those who wait, and the time is right now, and it's a different album, and I think that's good. It's good that it got separated the way it was. I don't know if I'm making any fucking sense, but I think at this point, I'm kind of standing and looking around and going, well, at least for now, this is the last one. I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I'm done recording, but I'm pretty spent right now. I'm not writing. I've dried up. I've been so busy touring and just performing and getting this thing going that I'm pretty dried up now. So I've got to go away for a while and recharge and maybe come back with some new ideas before I can even think about doing another one. But this one, the feedback's starting to come back slowly, but it's good. Like there's some interest in Renegade. I don't have any more detail other than I have some high hopes for Renegade. I think that song, besides getting a lot of the one you played earlier,
right, the one I opened the show with,
it's getting a lot of radio play around the world, and I'm with high hopes that I might get that song. Something bigger might happen with it, but it's not that I'm not at liberty to say anything. It's just I don't know any more detail.
Right.
But, that's communicating with one of my licensing companies. Same licensing company that got One Last Shot placed on television last year. But that's all I know. So I'm a little up in the air on that. So I'm just hoping for bigger and better things with this one. And I think I think this is the album that can deliver that, because it rocks pretty hard, I think.
Yeah. It rocks really hard, and it's like, I don't know if you're watching the chat or if you've picked up on it, but damn it, I Can't Use Puddin's actually my wife Lisa.
What's that?
The screen name, Damn It, I Can't Use Puddin'.
Oh, is that your wife?
Yeah.
Damn it, I can't use pudding? Oh, okay. No, I'm looking at the chat now. It's the only music that both Jack and I can agree with. Right. And you wrote that article about that. It was actually posted on my website.
Yeah, I saw that. That's
and
awesome.
I was glad that I could intervene and save your guys' marriage. And hopefully you guys are having a better love life because of me.
Well, I'll tell you this much, Pete. It's because it's because of you that we can travel on the road together. Because
right,
my wife and I have very, very different taste in music, and
yeah. Well, your wife, Lisa, is that her name?
Yep, that's Lisa.
She just wrote "Hello Hand Saved Your Marriage," so that's good. So, I guess, I guess in a way, I'm there with you guys.
It's kind of a scary vibe, but yeah, you're there with us, Pete.
Yeah, that's pretty kinky, man.
All 5 fingers and.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, is there anything on the new? Well, yeah, there's no Hello. I didn't write Hello Hand Part 2.
No, but there is beer.
Yeah, I did write beer, so
there is beer.
Yeah, there's beer. Beer in one hand, hand in the other hand.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's here we are, and it's December. How's the weather there in Virginia? Is it colder than my ex-wife, or?
Yeah, colder than your ex-wife. It's about as cold as a witch's tit. Well, I guess that'd be about as cold as your ex-wife.
It's good to see Deb here.
Yes.
And Deb, I'm glad Andy's home and doing better.
You and me both, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I mean, Deb doesn't talk a lot about her.
No.
Ah, jeez. Well, you've got this album out, and you talked about Renegade. Somebody's looking at picking up Renegade, which I think is completely awesome. The one thing I noticed is kind of the underlying. Well, first let me state the obvious. One of the underlying themes of this album is time. Give it time.
Right.
And the other, and it hit especially home with me, especially at this stage in my life, is just the sadness and the grief that we all have to deal with, on a regular basis. One song in particular, "Can I Smile Today?"
Yeah.
And it's personally I can relate to that on any number of levels, but it's like, damn, geez, it's one thing after another. Damn it, can I smile today?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. People always tend to focus on the rockers, but I like the ballads. I love rising to the challenge of penning a good, strong ballad, and that song proposed specific challenges to us in the studio. I mean, that was like one of the last ones that we really tackled. We kept putting it off, and we would go down there into the studio and be like, oh man, fuck, this ain't working. It's and it really did come out, bigger and heavier than I anticipated. What we did with the production and the thickness we added to the song, but I'm really pleased with the way that one came out. And that song, that song, the way that came together, it was bits and pieces of different things I was working on, and as a matter of fact, like good part of that hook was something that I was writing during when the wife swap thing was going on here,
Right.
It was like after the crew had gone back to the hotel and I was just here, Faith and I. Faith was in bed and I'd be sitting up,
Right.
looking back at the day going, what the hell was that all about? So I, a little smoke, pour a little drink, and I was working on that thing, and so I kind of had the hook and the meat of that thing, and it was just lying around for a while, and then finally I'd come back to it time and time again, and there it was, often, and that's what's magical about songwriting, how it never ceases to amaze me, is sometimes I don't even know where these things come from. They just, it's not, you don't just sit down like, oh, here it is, wrote a song. It's like kind of like dreams. A piece here, a bit there, and sometimes you have that same dream again, and you never really know what the hell it's all about.
Right.
And then till it reoccurs so many times where you can go, oh, okay, yeah, I keep having the same thing, and that's what it's about. But yeah, I'm glad you brought up "Can I Smile Today," because that song and its placement on the album, it's like the seventh song. It really, it kind of like, it's kind of like the midway of the album where it kind of like finally slows it down, because everything before that's just balls to the wall.
Yeah.
And then from there, it kind of goes in a different direction.
Yeah, I noticed the placement on the songs. It really takes you on a journey just to listen to it. And it's one of the ones, there's a lot of albums out that you can just pick a song and go with it. Yours truly has to be listened to from start to finish.
Well, I try to do that. I'm one of these old guys that still writes albums, that still makes albums with that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go in the studio and go, okay, let me think about who's going to want to download which song, and order doesn't matter. Throw a bunch of shit at the wall. And this does have a theme, because Denise, my wife, she said to me the other day, she's like, man, you talk about time a lot in this album. Just whenever the song is time, this time, that. Like, yeah, and I didn't even realize I was doing it so much. It's like, it's not like I sat down and said, I'm gonna write a bunch of songs that deal with the concept of time, the passage of time, or the, time going fast, or being patient, or how it appears. throughout themes and the universal complexity of it, because I am amazed with it. It's I think that's just, I mean, the album rocks. It's a hard rocking album. It's not like I did Dark Side of the Moon or something, but in some ways I think it's kind of like that sort of journey where one song leads to the other, and it asks questions, and it tries to nothing's ever really answered, because who can answer the mystery of time, and we haven't really mastered time and space, because if it controls us,
right.
Because one day we look around and 10 years and 20 years is gone, and the very last song, When, my 6.5 hour epic there, which there's a line in there where it says, time is a deceiver. It's got us in its grasp, and that's how I think of it. We all have our enemies. We draw a line in the sand, and whether it's terrorism or conflict you're having with relationships yourself or whatever,
right.
I think mankind's ultimate enemy is time. It's ruthless. It doesn't let go, and the only way to deal with this enemy is to make the best of it. Because we currently do have we have control what we do with our time, but it doesn't stand still long enough for us to really, I think, ever make full use of it. And I mean, I don't know if I'm making any fucking sense.
No, you actually are. Don't worry.
I think it just, I don't know. To me, we all waste it. Yeah. I have, but I can only speak for myself. I'm 52 years old, and I think everyone. I can't speak for everyone, but myself personally. We ask ourselves, what's the meaning of life? Well, that's a ridiculous question. I remember, you growing up with that, being young and being posed that question, and then, what is it? And so I think that gives rise to religion, and then religion finds its way to control us, and whether the meaning of life is God or it's this or it's that, but there is no meaning of life that for the masses that's conformity kind of meaning, where this is the answer. It's an individual thing. My what I think is the meaning of life might not be the meaning of life to somebody else. I think the meaning of life is what you make of it. It's the reality you create. It's the reality you perceive, and it's what you do with your allotted time. It's what you make. We're all the directors of our own movie. I look at life as everyone's life is a movie. You are, and in this movie of life, you are the director, you're the co-director, you're the producer, you're the actor, and you also are you're the backstage hand. You're the creator of the stage. All the world's a stage, but we create where we're going to be on the stage of life, where we're going to be, are we going to exit right or exit left? It's all up to us. And there's shit that controls us. We got to get up, right. We got to do this, we got to go to work, we got to deal with that. But everything that we deal with on a daily basis is the end result of conscientious choices we've made throughout our lives, and we're all where we are as a result of all the decisions we've made, and
right.
And I think time is. I'm very obsessed with it. I read a lot, and I read a lot of biographies, but like in the last year, it explains to me the concept of why we're here and why the universe runs the way it does. And as somebody who grew up, with religion shoved down his throat, my father was a preacher, and I was forced to not ask questions, to just accept the fact that, everything's the way it is because God says so,
Didn't you once tell me that your father actually had changed his last name because of that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My
original name was Berwick, wasn't it?
Yeah. His last name was Berwick, and he didn't want the word bar in his last name, so he changed it to Berwick. And isn't that something? But he's got a son who's a bar singer, basically. That's what I do. I sing in bars. So that probably, I don't know whether that keeps him awake. I think he's accepted it.
I was gonna say if he's ever heard Hello Hand, but it's like even that song you explained it.
I don't know if they are. You know what? I don't know if my parents really listen to my albums. You know what I mean? I mean they do. They have them, but it's like not everybody really listens, or they might not.
But with
it might have. It might have passed them by, or perhaps they choose not to comment on it.
But this last one, Jack? Oh yeah. But this last one, it runs pretty deep. As far as just raw emotions, and it, like you said, it has a hard rocking beginning. But even that, it's just it really grabs your attention. And this is so unlike, and this is where my wife and I disagree on music. Is my opinion is that a lot, and I won't say all, but I will say a lot of the new music that you hear now, especially in the mainstream media, it's cookie cutter, bubblegum garbage. And then you pop your CD and it's like, whoa. And then it grabs you, and and you really listen to it, and you're like, damn. Because that's
Jack,
me. I see myself in a lot of that.
Well, thank you, first of all. I mean, we all have our records that we play over and over and over, because they just, and I always try to, this is my fourth album. Of course, I didn't approach this any differently than I did any of my prior three. I mean, I'm sure any songwriter will tell you that, they want to put out an album that people are going to want to play again and again and again.
Right.
And me personally, out of my 4 albums now that I have under my belt, me personally, this is the one that I feel trying to remove myself from. Because the thing is, when you're done with an album, you're so full of it, because you've been working on these songs, and you just, it's like it's really easy to get sick of your own. And then, not only have I been living with these songs for years and tweaking them, and the process of recording, and you're in the studio for half a year, getting them, and then you're going out and you're singing them, every other night in bars, and so it's hard to remove yourself from it, but of course, talking about our pop culture and the mindless garbage that's out there, I don't listen to it. Who does? I mean, but we can't help but be aware of what's
yeah.
This is and of course this is what your show is all about, and Deb's show, and what you guys have talked about, what we've talked about before. It's in a lot of ways we're beating a dead horse with this, but it's a formidable topic, and it never ceases to amaze me. It's a great study in sociology and the human condition and our pop culture and the mental depravity of America and art and sometimes you wonder, chicken or egg. Is it like, okay, like radio claims that they're giving Americans what they want to hear, And I don't believe that. I don't really.
Neither do I.
I hold, I don't think Americans are that stupid. Many of them may be, but I honestly believe that if you give people if you give people something new, they're gonna embrace it, perhaps, unless it totally sucks, But I mean, why do when I get in my car, I keep the radio off most of the time, and every time I go, well, shit, I want to listen to something. I forgot to bring CDs with me. I want to listen to something just to keep myself awake at the wheel. And every time I say, okay, I'm gonna give radio a shot here. I turn it on, and then I'm reminded as to why I feel like, in the words of the Who, won't get fooled again. I just got fooled again, because I'll turn on the fucking radio, and there's, they're still playing Boston, and they're playing fucking, old Zeppelin, and it's like, goddamn, they're playing the same music that they've been playing all my life. It's like you would think that there's no other bands except these same 40 bands, and it's like, Jesus Christ, play some new music, but they don't, because it's all about selling advertising, and the radio programmers continue to have this mentality that if people are challenged, that if they play adventurous music, cutting edge stuff, if they try to break new, and the people aren't able to sing along right out of the gate, then they'll change the channel until they hear, if you're music that they can sing along with. And, it's the chicken and the egg. What do you do? But, of course, that's where satellite radio comes in,
Yeah.
But we're in a paradigm shift with the Internet and satellite radio, but it's really, at this point, and we can go on and on and on, and I do,
Yeah.
and about how the power is in the hands of the independent artists, and we can do all the things now that the major labels never wanted us to be able to do. And this is all true, and I use all these modern technological tools to keep my musical career going. But it's pretty sad, though, because the commercial monopoly still does have its hooks deep enough in to where they still are force-feeding us. Because all you got to do is watch these pathetic award shows.
Oh, my God.
And let's face it, Jack, more people are watching these goddamn award shows than are listening to your radio show, or that are going on to my website, listening to my music. We still can't compete because they've got the money. So I was watching the American Music Awards show a couple of weeks ago. The only reason I was watching it was because my daughter was watching it, because,
right.
and that's, and I was hanging out.
Happens to me.
I was hanging out with, hanging out with my kid, and I was trying to stomach it, and there's Justin Bieber winning Artist of the Year, and there's, the fucking Black Eyed Peas and Rihanna and all these goddamn fucking idiots, they're all writhing around, dancing around, shaking their asses, all this fucking ghetto music, and this bullshit. And it's like,
don't forget your girlfriend Taylor Swift.
And I'm just sitting there like, Jesus Christ, it's like, okay, I guess I sound like my parents did, I was like, oh, this shit you kids listen to, but let's face it, I grew up listening to the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, great singer-songwriters, and the kids now, they're growing up listening to this ghetto rap and goddamn hacks like Justin Bieber. What is this about? But basically it's Disney, and it's McDonald's. It's McDonald's marketing. The same kind of marketing concept that sells bland hamburgers by the billions is still what controls our pop culture. And the same thing. That's why magazines like People and Us are still dominating. They're still going to sell more than these underground music magazines that you'll see at Borders and Barnes and Noble.
Right.
And there are some good musical magazines out there trying to get the same sort of distribution, talking about, and I get reviewed in some of these, trying to get better distribution in the States.
Yeah, I was just thinking, yeah, those magazines are out there, and a lot of them are really good, but you do have to, much like when you're going through independent musicians, you do have to dig, because there's also a lot of, well, speaking of time, wasted time, even opening the cover, with some of these.
They're fighting for shelf space, and I mean, it's no different than the grocery store. Everything's political. This is no conspiracy stuff. Anybody who's interested in these sort of things, marketing, and payola is alive and well in every aspect of our government.
Absolutely.
And even grocery stores. There's a reason why there's reasonable politics to why like certain products are like at eye level, and then some, and
why do you think the candy's at eye level to the little kiddies?
What's that?
Why do you? I work in retail and know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's all marketed to the target audience? Why do you think candy at the checkout line is way down below? Like a grown-up would have to bend over and pick it up, but yet the Rugrats right there in front of them.
Yep. Yep, and it's as long as we're in a commerce-driven society where money talks, bullshit walks, that's how it's always going to be.
Yeah.
So with all the optimism about the downfall of the record labels and the rise of the independents, it's still when you stand back and look at it. The commercial monopoly still is raking it in. I mean, yeah, they're going down, and they are seeing, they're suffering on their own end too. But they still are the powerful elite.
Mm-hmm. It's
just like government. It's like as long as we have a two-party system. That's really what runs. That transcends into pop culture and everything else. Mm-hmm. There's really, you're either outside or you're in.
Yeah, it's really funny, and they were kind of talking about this in the chat room as you and I have been chatting here. Is the recorded music industry is blaming, as I think Kevin put it, they're blaming peer-to-peer. They're blaming like it on the file sharing for their decline. They're blaming it on the digital. Instead of embracing the digital media, they demonize it. And it's always been my theory that they demonize it because they can't control it. It's like they shut down one file sharing website, right. Another one pops up in its place. They go and find one format that they're using to share files. They shut that down. Something else pops up into place. It's like pulling weeds. The music industry hates it. The music industry hates shows like this. Because
right.
we give you guys the platform to be heard, and not a huge audience. I can't compete with the awards show, but what I can guarantee you this is that my audience is engaged, in tune, and paying attention. Whereas the awards show, it's all a bunch of bubblegum pop, and 90% of that's probably freaking commercials anyway.
It's despicable. The arrogance is still the attitude that they still are clinging to that old school mentality that if you're not signed to us, you're irrelevant. And they're still, they've always been the keepers of the brass ring. We'll tell you, we'll decide. There's only room for so many, and we will bless you with fame. Otherwise, you're and they still look at the world like that, and they will go down with the ship eventually. Because damn it, I mean, they're just. The fact is that the rise of the independent artist is screwing them, and they can't stand it. Because you take whatever major act they have.
Mm-hmm.
as successful as any of their major acts are, whether they're Lady Gaga or U2 or whoever they are, these acts are selling a lot of CDs, but see, they'd be selling way more if it wasn't for the rise of the independent artists, the independent artists having so much more, power and being able to, because, before the internet, you couldn't sell, the only way you could sell CDs was at your shows.
Right.
But basically, before the internet, CD, the internet's still fairly new. It really wasn't until like the mid-'90s that it really took off. So it hasn't been around that long. And I think people are still dealing with the reality of all this power and how it's affecting things. And I think the last people to really who are really denying it is the music industry monopoly. They're still clinging to the old school mentality, of they're not accepting the power of the song and the fact that independent artists out there are the possibility is there to make a good amount of money just on individual songs. They're still clinging to that old concept of putting out an album, selling units.
Right.
The fact is that the units are down. They're CD sales are down for the majors, and they hate it. And the enemy is us. The enemy is the independent artists who. The internet is the tool that with that internet, with this internet, is the portal to. You could do all the things that only the major labels could do before. With this internet, you can be your own publicist, you can be your tour manager, you can be your own promoter, you can you can contact anyone you want to contact.
Yeah, and in so many ways to promote, and people are, because of the newness of the internet, like you just pointed out, people are thinking of new ways to promote themselves online. And
right.
Going back to the music industry, Deb makes a brilliant point. They can't stand it and they can't stop it, but they do try.
Yeah. And they'll continue to try. And I mean, the best thing, to see, the thing is, okay, I as long as people feed the beast, though, as long as the masses feed the beast, it won't go down. I'll use an example. It's right here in Chicago. I live about an hour and a half from a major metropolitan city called Chicago, and we have the Chicago Cubs. And the Chicago Cubs are a pathetic baseball team. They haven't won a World Series in 100 years, and they've proven time and time again to me that they're not worthy of my attention, but yet people continue to pack Wrigley Field. They're loyal to the Cubs. People actually get angry. I've had people get angry with me when I say, no, I'm no longer a Cub fan. I used to be, but I reached a point where they weren't deserving of my time and attention because they've proven themselves not worthy of it because they can't produce a winner.
Right.
But yet people continue to feed the beast. That's the Chicago Cubs, so there's no incentive to change. See, there's no incentive to build a winning team. So I use that as an example. As long as people watch these award shows on television, as long as they listen to their car radios, what's dictated to them on those car radios, as long as they buy magazines. These like People magazine or whatever, the Inquirer or whatever. As long as Americans feed the beast that is the lowest common denominator of American pop culture, it will sustain. It's all cost and demand. So we're all guilty to some extent. I try to do my part by keeping the car radio off.
Right.
And I think if every American did that, lovers of music, if there was like a countrywide boycott of the car radio, the advertisers would crash. They lose their advertisers, and then they would give the American people what they demanded. And it's no different than our lies and more bullshit. So the American people went out in droves, and they voted the Republicans back in. You know.
Right.
But then again, but now if the Republicans, it's a cycle, it's a vicious cycle. Yeah. We've seen it time and time again. But now if the Republicans drop the ball, if they fail to revive things, then it'll swing back the other way again. You know, the American people every now and then they will stand up and say we've had enough. It works that way with politics. But I don't see it.
It's an interesting parallel because just think, you got a lot of independent thinkers, third parties, and again, it goes back to what we were talking about before. Follow the money trail, right? Just like with politics, and this is where the two are very much alike, and it goes back to your point earlier that it rolls downhill. Okay, you've got the major political parties, and they have all the money, and so you've got a lot of really great third-party candidates that can't even be heard, or even be seen, or they're mocked.
Right.
Because they're a third-party candidate, they're a whack job, and then someone goes so far as to say he's a communist. You don't know what he is, and it's much the same as with independent musicians. Independent music. Oh yeah, well yeah, some guy in his garage beating on a drum or what have you, and people's perception of independent versus what independent actually is are very, very, very different.
It's like so many things are just words. It's like alternative music. What?
Yeah.
It's like that has to end. Alternative to what? It's like words lose their meaning. You can take any word, be a tree or chair, road, map, whatever, and if you say it over and over and over, eventually it starts to become surreal. Like, what does that mean? And then much of our language does come from, the Greek or whatever. And of course, the English, even though it is the English language, Americans, we tend to butcher the English language, and the words have different meaning. Like a good example is like, if somebody's name is Richard, we have to call them Rich. We shorten people's names. It's like we have our legal names, and Christopher becomes Chris. I think it's just more of the casualness of us, where like the English are more of a formal people, so the English language has been kept more to how it was intended to, because it's we out of respect, because that's the language. But anyway, getting back to, it's just a word, and words, over time they lose relevance, but we still use them. Independent artists. It's like, you're either an artist or you're not, I think.
Right.
Was Beethoven an independent artist? Because he wasn't on a major record label. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, and it's. I think when you use that word, like independent or alternative or underground or whatever, or garage, sometimes you can wear it with pride, but I think there's always going to be that part of the other side that they read differently into that. I don't know, like genres, I was faced with that with this album. My distributor in Portland, wanted to know, okay, what box are we going to put you in on this album? Your other albums we put in the Americana genre. Is this the same? And I really didn't want. I was talking with my
can't
rep.
Put you in a genre, Pete. You
don't.
You don't
but
fit
they have
a predefined genre.
The reality. I know, Jack. But the reality is, when you're on a label or when you're dealing with a distributor, they do have to label it. They have to say, okay, it's rock or it's rap or it's punk or it's country. And I was telling them, I said, look, man, I think that this is just a rock. This is rock. But, you run into it's hard to clarify because, you know, rock can be AC/DC and it can be Barry Manilow, you know, and at the same time, you know, so they're going to put it out as Americana. I'm sick of it. I really, you know, I can't stand that whole Americana label because, you know, yeah, Americana, you know, it can be really great country rock, but it can also be some guy picking it can be somebody picking a banjo, you know, it can be bluegrass, you know what I mean?
Folk. I mean, Americana can cover just about anything, really.
Right. But yeah, unfortunately, you know, you got to always be defining yourself because, you know, if you just you're dealing with the American people who want to know what it is, you know, and it's like if you're going to get somebody to if you're going to try to drive somebody to your website or get somebody to really listen, you got to give them a reason to. And unfortunately, just saying, well, you know, I'm totally unique. I don't sound like anything else. That
doesn't paint any kind of picture because they think it's different, and of course
exactly.
they think he's different, and then they start thinking he's that kind of different. Yeah.
Well, yeah. People want to, but really, you know, you got to paint some kind of interesting picture. Like, well, you know, people say, well, what do you sound like? And I said, well, you know, I'll just use an example. The example I'm about to use doesn't necessarily pertain to my music, but you might use an example like, well, you know, if Frankenstein and Iggy Pop, you know, sat down together and dropped acid and then went out and shot up a Wendy's, that's what my music's like. Wow, that sounds interesting. You know, you gotta like, you know,
I gotta remember that.
I'm just talking off the top of my head, total shit. But no, really, it's like, it makes a lot of sense. You know, I mean, I was thumbing through a magazine at Borders just yesterday. I was killing some time before I headed out to downtown to do my interview on WGN, and I was killing some time at the bookstore, and I was in the music section. I was looking through this cutting edge music magazine, and I'm flipping through it, and I'm just totally flipping through it, and one band really caught my eye, and it was just their picture, their whole image made me stop and read about them. And the reason why is because they look so damn different. They were like, they just really, their look, you know, and they were you know, they looked really wild. They looked like a cross between Motley Crue and Kiss and the Ramones, you know. They were
wow.
Like all in black and leather, and their faces were like heavy makeup, and they were retro, but yet they were kind of goth and punk, and they looked really scary. And I thought, wow, this band looks interesting, and they caught my attention, you know. They weren't just like a bunch of fucking hippies, you know, standing up there in their jeans, and you know what I mean?
And they didn't have the preppy, washed, cleaned up look either. They didn't have the Bieber thing going on. Actually, I think Bieber fits him better.
Yeah, that too. But, you know, I get so bored with you know, it's like bands, you know, I'll go, you know, I'll be at a festival, I'll look up there, and you'll see like a bunch of old guys up there, whatever, and they're up there in their short pants and their sandals, and they're wearing their caps. You know, it looks like they either got off their boat or they just drove straight from work and got up there, and they're just standing there, and it's like, well, why should I devote my time to this? You know, it's show business. Show business. You're supposed to be putting on a show. You're supposed to be entertaining the audience. Why aren't you doing this? And you know, the artists and bands are always going to be successful. Are always going to be those that can grab your attention. You know, that can really reach out and engage an audience, and that it's not just the sound. Unfortunately, I'm not saying, you know, use sex, because that's a turn off. I think the greatest artists of all time, from Dylan, you know, and onward, it wasn't about sex. It was about great songwriting, but yet there's also always something captivating that the great artists always find a way to engage you.
Where some it's their songwriting, others still it's controversy.
Yeah, and that's a good thing too. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, controversy just for the sake of controversy that's the same philosophy as sex sells.
Yeah, that's the Howard Stern philosophy that's been overdone already.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why things happen the way they do. I don't have any answers. What do I know, man? I'm just make it or not. I mean, all I know is I make a living as an entertainer. This is my job. So, in a certain respect, that's success enough. Because I mean, I remember being younger, slaving away at my day jobs, thinking, "Oh man, God, it'd be great just if I could just make it, in music." Well, now I am, but that's a vicious grind too, and it's as rewarding as it can be. It's also scary, and it's also you're on your own, and you're just continuously out there, always looking at the calendar going, "Oh shit, man, I got to fill this date or that date because I got these bills and that bill, and I gotta," and so it doesn't get any easier, and so I just continue to work at it, and hope for the best.
Yeah. Well, let me see here. Let's take a look at the chat here real quick here, Pete. If the music sucks,
I haven't been looking because I can't. It's hard to do both.
It is. I mean, because the chat can be distracting sometimes. Some of the shit these guys talk about. But yeah, Deb says if the music sucks, the TNA, let's just say tits and ass, might still sell the crap. Yeah, I would agree with that. Look at Britney. My left toe's got more talent than Britney Spears. Give me a break. But she's hot looking, and that's what sold her music.
Yeah. Well.
Hey, anyway, guys in the chat, if anybody has any questions for Pete, just type it in the chat and we'll throw it up in there, and you'll definitely get an honest answer.
I think if I were to sum up the way I feel, to me, I'm in it for the long haul. I always have been, and I think longevity always prevails. Because fads come and go.
Yep.
And flash in the pans, and we're talking about the majors. Always, we do tend to pick on those at the top, but unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff competing all around. On one side, you got you have major bands really sucking it all up for themselves because the money's there and you can't compete.
Right.
But then, unfortunately, what you also have, we do have an overpopulated glut of wannabes. I mean, you got when you turn around and you see your grandpa putting out a CD or something, to me there's something, you know what I mean?
William Hung, that's a perfect example right there.
Exactly. And
he got signed, but he was signed knowing he was going to be a flash in the pan.
So you're competing with so much on both sides, and there's something like 500,000 CDs put out a year, I think. I mean, 500,000. It's just an insane amount, and unfortunately, the reality is that a CD is a product. That's what in the distribution world it's called product.
Right.
Just like a bag of oranges or a bottle of shampoo, and it's looked at as a product. And when there's a lot of it, I mean, the same thing happens to the housing market or anything. I mean, why is a diamond valuable? Because they're rare. But if suddenly, diamonds, if you just walked outside and it was hailing diamonds, and everybody could just scoop them up and fill their garbage cans with them, well, they'd lose their value. And unfortunately, a lot of the struggle now is that's what's happening with music. There's too much of it. There's a lot of it. And that's the double-edged sword of the internet.
I was just thinking that, yeah, and you're right.
But if you could play, are you gonna play some more songs off my new album?
Yeah, of course.
Do you have stuff lined up, ready to go, or can I where I'm going with this is,
Pick one.
if there's one song on the album that just summed up my attitude, it would be "Won't Give It Up," because that song is really what I'm all about. It's just basically you just can't quit, and that to me is the essence of that's the rock and roll. Because rock and roll, to me, it's not a game. It's not a hobby. It's like, it's not just about getting laid or getting fucked up or being a rock and roll star. To me, rock and roll it's a work ethic. It's like, last man standing wins, and it's like, if you're, I always felt like the true artists were the ones that, you'd have to kill them. They'd be doing it regardless. It's
right.
not. It's not. There's no motive. No motive.
No underlying.
Other than this is who I am, and I have no choice. I mean, I really do. I am who I am, and I do what I do because I really don't have any other choice. I remember ever since I was a little boy,
right.
Not much older than a baby, looking at the world around me, saying, I don't want to conform. My dad would take me downtown to his office, and he'd bring me to work sometimes on the train, and he'd bring me down there to his stuff envelopes or just hang out the office and help him, And I remember seeing all the guys, all the men wearing the same suits, carrying the same briefcase, and they all looked the same to me. And I remember being 6 or 7 going, man, I'm not going to be like that. I don't want to be like that. And see, at that moment in time, I think I officially embraced the rock and roll spirit of not conforming. To me, that's what it is. Right. And you do it whether I think you have too many now. You have too many kids and wannabes out there putting out their CDs, going for that instant fame. And I know some people like that. I'm not going to mention any names, but I know some people like that who they're just like they're coming out with their first CD or something, and they're looking for that instant success that's going to save them, paying any amount of dues. Mm-hmm. And it's and people come to me for advice sometimes, and they don't like what I tell them. They don't want to hear what I tell them. People ask me, well, how did you get that done, or how did you have that success over there? And I'll say, well, it started 30 years ago.
The truth hurts.
And they'll be like, well, what do you mean? I'll say, well, are you willing to put in like about 30, maybe 40 years of busting your ass? Oh, what do you mean? Oh, what do you mean? Of course, that may be just my story. Not everybody it takes that long, but I think if you could do anything decade after decade and still be doing, it's easy. We're in a disposable society. Americans is a disposable society. You use up something, you throw it away. The average person changes careers many times. And rightfully so. If you're not happy with what you're doing, you should change your career, But if you're doing what you really love and what you were meant to do, you don't stop doing it just because it's not paying enough, or because your family or your spouse or somebody says, well, you should grow up and be realistic.
Get a real job. Yeah.
I'm reading. I love to read. I just finished a book, Larry Harmon. And good trivia question, but Larry Harmon was the original Bozo. He's the one that started the Bozo the Clown character. And many different men have played Bozo throughout the years, but he was the original Bozo, and his story is amazing. This guy, from a young kid all through his life, he was just driven, and he would try so many different things. He'd never take no for an answer, and he would tell people, I want to be an entertainer, and he had the gift, and he was a drummer, a musician, and he'd get up on stage, and you know, he'd win all these talent contests, and but people were constantly telling him, "Oh, be realistic, be a doctor." You know, entertainers don't make money, you know, and you know, you think it's bad now. Back in those old days, oh my God, you know, that was a kiss of death if you told your family you wanted to be an actor or a singer. They thought you were just a bum, you know. Oh no, that's be realistic, you know. But he didn't listen, and then he went on to great success as an actor. He launched the Bozo the Clown character, you know, and he if you wouldn't mind playing the first song off the album, "Won't Give It Up."
Got it right here.
That to me, in a nutshell, Jack, just kind of consolidates everything we've been talking about, and I think it just applies to everything in general, you know, to and not just music, but whatever is going on in your life that maybe somebody's telling you just quit, just give up, or you know, it's like you just have to say to them, you know, screw you, I won't,
right.
And that's what that song is all about.
Right. Well, I got it up. It's ready to go.
You got it up?
I got it right. Pete, what I did is I just had a playlist with all your music, so all I had to
no,
do
you just said I got it up. That's so that should make your lovely wife happy. Is she still with us?
Nah, she went to bed.
Okay.
She wimps out on us pretty early here, but good one. You got me on that one, Pete. You got it.
All right.
I have the song loaded in the media player. And
Pete, laughing her ass off.
Yeah. Well, what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna need to put you on hold, and then I'll go into the song, and then I'll bring you right back.
Okay, sounds good, buddy.
All right. Let me hold on. Where's that damn button? Here we go. Put this call on hold. There we go. Got it. All right. This is Won't Give It Up by Pete Berwick off of his Give It Time CD.
Crucified and spurned, bridges fell down. So did I. Nowhere but up from the bottom. Don't wanna see scars, I got 'em. The world don't care if you live or die. One man laughs as another cries. So on and on I go, but I won't give in. Gonna fight until the end. I'm not scared, 'cause I know who I am. You can hit me, I can take it, but try to tell me I can't make it. No one's big enough to wear my shoes. Ain't nobody else gonna pay my dues. So on and on I go. Won't give it up. 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 Give it up. No, won't give it up. 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 Give it up. Trials that we must face. Just look around. The time is now. Gotta make a stand for something. Ain't settling for nothing. Tell me, are you really satisfied? Do you think that it's too late to try? Maybe for you, but not for me. Won't give it up. Won't give it up. Won't give it up. Give it up, won't give it up, won't give it up, give it up, won't 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 give it up, give it up.
Made a rookie mistake. Okay. Oops. That was Won't Give It Up by Pete Berwick off of his Give It Time CD. Once again, joining us in the conversation is Pete Berwick himself. Always great to have you here on the show. I do want to let folks know that, yes, I have been recording tonight. Blog TV only allows you to record in 10-minute blocks. So as we come to the end of 10 minutes, it flashes the little thing to title it. I title the video and move on and start recording the next one. So this show, if all goes well, because we have had our fair share of bugs tonight, if all goes well, this entire interview should be archived, and I will also have it loaded on the YouTube channel for the show, which is Indie Spotlight Live over on YouTube. And joining us once again is Pete Berwick.
Thank you, Jack. It's great to be here. I'm having fun. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
you're actually making a ton of sense.
I'm really doing. I'm bored. You know, I mean, I'm really fucking like. I'm, you know, sleep deprived. Sometimes when I'm sleep deprived, I lack focus. But I don't know. I think I always say what I feel. I'm not making anything up. Right. And you know me. I'm never in a shortage of.
You, Pete?
But I want to give a shout out to everyone out there that's there. Thanks for tuning in. Also. Yeah, I see Kevin, Shovelhead Kevin has been, we've been, oh no, Kevin, you've, I'm kind of watching the chat here. I'm too delirious to try to type to people and shit, so
no,
you can communicate. But does Kevin have a radio show?
Yeah, Kevin does a show on here as well. His show is called Just Another Show. He's on hiatus right now.
Okay, I'd like to tune into that sometime.
Yeah, check out his channel because well, politically you and Kevin have much of the same points of view. That's for sure. And the other thing too is Kevin's like really big into NASCAR and sports, and there's just nothing going on in NASCAR right now, so that's why he's on hiatus. But yeah, Kevin also puts together a really good show as well. I've known Kevin for a couple of years actually. Long before I met you and Deb and came to internet broadcasting and all that stuff.
Who's Here I Am again? Who's that?
That's Lee.
Lee?
Lee. I've known Lee for a couple of years. Another really great guy. I'm sure you remember hearing Deb talk about the website hopesreward.com. He's the guy that runs that.
What website?
Hopes Reward. I talk too fast sometimes. Hopes Reward. Take the cigarette out of my mouth. Maybe I can talk better, huh?
Okay. What kind of cigarettes are you sucking out of there?
Cheapo. Well, I can't really call them cheapos because they're premium at a cheapo price. They're Pall Malls.
It's just gonna kill you, you know. Pall Mall. I used to smoke those, but I smoked those back in the '70s. The no filters.
No, these
are you smoking menthols?
Yeah, these are menthols.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, you know, you're not going to get out of this world alive, no matter what we try to do, Pete.
No, we're not. We're all. You know, think about it, because like if you were immortal, if we lived, if there was no such thing as death, and we all knew we were going to live for eternity, what incentive would there be to do anything now? You could say, fuck it, I'll wait 30 years, then I'll try something.
Right.
Because you got zillions of years, you know. So I think that's what makes life. That's what makes life so special is the fact, and I think. You know, you reach a point. I think you can't tell young people that. You know, when I was 20, you know, you couldn't tell me that. You know, one day I was going to wake up and be 52, but one day you are, and that's what works for me. You know, it's like, you know, you got to take what's going against you and then put it, you know, in your favor. That's why I try to. You know, I try to make the most of I can out of every single damn day, you know, and because, and even when you do that, you know, and that just makes time go faster too, you know.
It does. You're right. You know, it's really funny when you're young. Time creeps by. You know, you're 16, then of another lifetime you're 18, then you're 21, and then you blink, and you're 30.
it goes by in blocks, man.
It does.
Like,
It really does.
And having a kid, really, you know, I mean, I got a 12-year-old, and it's like when I see her, you know, she's really turning into a beautiful young lady. She's getting taller, and you know, it really does not seem that long ago that I was holding her in my arms as an infant, you know. I mean, you know, so that would have been 12 years ago, but, you know, 12 years come and gone, and you know, 12 more years I'll be in my 60s, and so the time is now, you know. It's and the song you just played, Won't Give It Up, there's a little line in there where I said, just look around, the time is now.
Yeah.
Got to make a stand for something, ain't settling for nothing. You know, tell me, are you really satisfied? Do you think that it's too late to try? Maybe for you, but not for me.
Right.
It's never too late to try. You know, coulda, shoulda, woulda, man. You know, it's like we started off this talking about, I brought up, you know, that cliche line, you know, what's the meaning of life, you know, and what's it all about? Well, in my opinion, a lot of what it's all about is live your life in a way where you don't look back and say shoulda, coulda, woulda. Do it now. Do it now, because, like, okay, you know, this is strange too. You know, it's like I haven't heard a lot of talk about it, but we're leaving the OOs. You know, the 2000, the tens, I guess.
Yeah. We're
well, okay, this is
decade.
This is 2010s. So it's like we're here exactly. We're entering a new decade, which really it's a milestone of sorts, I think. And it's like, so I was driving thinking about this, coming back from a show last week or whatever it was. It hit me. It's like, yeah, you know, we're closing out a decade. Mm-hmm. I guess it is just a number. I mean, you know, what's the last 10 years? It's but in this case, a decade, and
well, just a blink of an eye ago, we were celebrating Y2K, the end of a century, and then another decade.
Exactly. So I personally look back at the decade, and I was pleased that I was able to say to myself, okay, this last decade's been really good for me. I put out 4 albums, and I was just listing in my mind all the achievements and things I had done, and I was glad I'd done it. I was glad that I could look back at the decade and not go, fuck, I just pissed it away. You know, I just wanted another 10 years, like on Pink Floyd's, bringing that up again, that when they were talking about concept albums, Dark Side of the Moon. Right. And then one day, 10 years has gone behind, no one told you when to run, you missed the starting gun, you know. Right. The song Time, I think it is, and it's so true. You know, it's sad. You know, nobody should have to do that, to look back and go, man, fuck, 10 years I didn't do shit. I got to get my act. You know, it's your own fault if you look back. I think, my God, 10 years is a lot of time. You know, you tell me you didn't even attempt one dream or one challenge, and I know people like that who year after year, decade after decade, nothing changes. They're just content to just stay where they're at. You know, I guess, well, if it makes them happy, that's fine. But here's something else I wanted to bring up, and I want to get some ideas on this, because thinking about where we're at, okay, we had the 80s, okay, you know, okay, let's go back to 60s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, okay, and now we just finished the OOs, I guess. That's what they were calling it, the hundreds. Okay, now we're entering. Somebody tell me if I'm totally screwed up, if I'm just like, you know, making any sense. But we're entering a decade. What are they going to call this decade that we're entering? Because it's you can't call it 80s or you can't, you know, it's like there's no O after it. 60s, 70s, 80s, because the next year is going to be 2011, then 12, 13, 14. You know, the next decade is going to be teen numbers. See what I mean?
Well, you know, decades are often defined
until we enter, and then after 2019 will be the 20s again. Then we'll be into 2020, 21, and then the decade after that 30. So 30s and 40s and on and on and on. So what's this decade going to be called as far as a number? You know what I mean? What are we going to call it?
Well, music is often, decades are often defined by the music.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying though. I don't mean.
Like, what are we going to call it? What do we call?
Well, I don't mean like number wise, because we're not going to be able to call it. You know what I'm saying? You have the 50s,
You can't call
the
it
60s,
the turn of the century.
the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Okay, we're finishing the hundreds or the O's or whatever. What do you call this next decade as far as a number?
I got a challenge. Hey, somebody go
The
Google
teens?
that real quick.
Am I making any sense?
Yeah, somebody go Google that real quick. I know what you're asking. It makes sense to me. I don't know what it would be called.
I know, right?
I don't.
And I wonder, but it's just a matter of time till somebody in the media comes up, just so that, like, they label, okay, Generation X or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to come up with
Generation X,
something
right
to call the next decade, you know,
The
because
11th?
of the. This one goes to 11. It's the Spinal Tap. 11. Well, you can't call it the 11 because after 11 you got 2012, 2013. What are you going to call it? The teens? See what I'm saying? Am I making any sense? Am I making any sense with this?
That is really that's a really good question. I don't know what it would be called. Well, the year before Rob's next album. Well, that could work too.
Because we tend to label our decades, 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. You know, what are you going to label this decade?
You got the millennium, and then you've got.
See what I'm saying?
The tens? You wouldn't call it the tens.
No, is that what you call it, the tens?
Would you call it the tens?
You know what? You might be getting somewhere. You might be close. Yeah,
the tens.
Well, does that make sense though? 11,
it
12,
doesn't.
13.
But here's the thing: it doesn't roll off the tongue, right? Like you say, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on and so forth. It rolls right off the tongue.
Right.
When you say it'll be the teens, the first two numbers don't count.
Yeah. See?
Okay.
Here I am again.
Okay,
it'll be
these
the
guys
teens.
are googling it. These guys are googling it. See, I love my viewers follow instructions.
Okay, 1910 was the teens. Here I am again. Is that Lee?
That's Lee. That's
okay,
Lee.
and that Lee might have it. That's what I was thinking. I was wondering if it would be the teens. So, that might be it. The teens.
Or Deb might have hit the nail right on the head by calling it the modern depression.
but Lee, I got to say though, I was thinking the same thing Lee was thinking, but it's not teens up until 13. You know, see, 2011 and 12 aren't teens. Those aren't, or
those aren't teens. But and again, going.
It's not teen until it ends with teen. 13, 14, 15, 16. See. Maybe we should just smoke a joint and forget about it. Maybe we're thinking too much.
You know what? Yeah, maybe. You know what? Let me. I need to go crack open another cold one, and what I need to do. This one's about. This one's. I got another tall dead soldier here.
Yeah. We're time traveling. He took us ahead to the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then a bunch of smiley faces there.
Okay. Now, Lee, I will give and this will be one of the few times I'll ever say this. Lee's a sharp guy. Teen at 13 is in human years. Teen in numerology is 10.
Okay, what 10?
In numerology.
Oh, because it's double digits.
Right. Okay. I guess.
Yeah. No. You're.
I mean, like I said, Pete, I was drawing a blank right along with you, brother. So I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But I trust Lee. I know he knows what he's talking about. He's not the kind of guy that's going to say something and be wrong about it. He doesn't speculate. If he's going to say it, he's going to probably be right about it. So.
Right.
All right. Yeah. So we'll just say, it's the teens.
Yeah. And as we move ahead into like a new decade, it seems like the past becomes more ancient history. Like talking about how time goes by. One day you look at your kid, or another 10 years is gone. But every time you turn on television, this obsession with the 80s, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The 80s. There's a lot of shit happened for me in the 80s. There was like I find myself waxing nostalgic on the '80s a lot. You know, that was my '20s. You know, and
Right.
but I tell you, it's like it wasn't too long ago that the '80s seemed like yesterday. But now, as we move further into the future, the '80s is becoming ancient history.
It is. It is. And, you know, what feels weird, Pete, is that's an era that I lived through. And, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, I'll tell you where, you know, a divide that shocks me is I think of myself as a reasonably young person. Then I go to work and I have a bunch of teenagers that work for me, and they weren't even alive when the Space Shuttle Challenger fell out of the sky, for example.
Right.
You know,
Right.
they
Sure.
you know, they were born, you know, like in 1989. That was even after the Reagan administration. You know,
Yeah, that was like 87, 86 or 87. The shuttle, wasn't it? Wasn't
it was
it like
86.
87?
The shuttle. The
Yeah.
shuttle
Okay.
was in 86, and you figure
Yeah,
a lot of the
yeah.
teenagers in today's retail workforce are
Right.
like born in 89, 90, got one born in 91.
Yeah. Right.
So you go think about that, and I'm thinking to myself, 91. Fuck, I was almost in high school. It's
Mhm.
scary even to me. It's like you can't. Okay, here's okay. You want to talk about time flying fast, Pete? How long do you think you've known me? Take a guess in years. How long have we known each other?
Not that long, man. Really, I think I met you and Deb. I'd say around 2007. So what? 2 or 3 years?
Oh, good guess. Because I couldn't believe. I was thinking about it today. It didn't seem like it's been 2 years, but it has.
You know, I
2
knew
years.
Deb longer. I
Yeah,
think
you knew that before you knew me.
I met Deb on MySpace around the time I put out Ain't No Train out of Nashville. When I released that, that would have been like that was '07.
Mhm.
That was 2007.
She just confirmed
So-
it. 3 years.
Yeah, 3, and then I can't remember. You know, I met her. I met you through her,
Mhm.
and I cannot tell you when that was. You know, but
That was about
yeah,
this-
it hasn't been that long. You know.
But yet
Hasn't
you
been
think
that
about how
long.
long a year is, okay? You're
Mhm.
talking 12 months, 365 days. Okay, think about how long a day is sometimes. It's
Yeah,
been
it
that
just
long, but
flies.
yet it seems like it's a blink of an eye. Time
day-
goes
yeah,
back to
day
the whole
just-
time thing. Goes back to the whole time thing. Time is flying by.
And you know, it's really man that puts a number on. You know, okay, there's space time,
Mhm.
and this is really getting heavy, which is different. You know, that's where you can actually get into time travel and shit. But you know, it's mankind, it's humans that make calendars. But of course, you know, so much is based on astronomy and astrology. You know, I mean, I read what I can about science and religion, and I'm, you know, I don't want to piss anybody off here because you know, people of faith. The last thing I want to do is piss them off or make anybody think the way I think.
Right.
But you know, a lot of religion is based on astrology. You know, Christianity, for example. You know, and the church has always fought this, and that's what the Inquisition was about. And and you know, people, you know, free thinking was prohibited, and you know, burn them at the stake. They're heathen. You know, but the fact is, and it goes back to the Mayans. And you know, Galileo was ostracized from the church because, you know, how dare, you know, for so long we thought the church dictated that the sun revolved around us. We're the center of the universe. We're the center of the sun. No, we revolve around it. You know, like we're in winter now. You know, it's like it's horrible here in Illinois. It's freezing. It's bitter. It's brutal. And you think, you know, when I was younger, I always think of winter as, oh, winter came to us. Winter, no, really, we came to winter because we're on this little ball that's just spinning around,
Right.
that's circling the sun. And why is it winter now? Well, because we're at that spot in the universe that we're the furthest from the sun than we are at any given time, and that's why it's so freaking cold. And when summer rolls around again, well, summer isn't really coming to us. We're coming to summer because, okay, we're closer to the sun now, you know. And that's what so much of religion and time is based on, the lunar calendar and where we are at that moment in time and our little trip around the sun, basically, you know. And that's what's So yeah, is a year 365 days, or well, whoever decided that a day was 24 hours? Well, a lot of it is mathematically based on the rising and the setting and the season. So there's a mathematical. A lot of people, when they point to God, they use math. They'll actually use math to prove the existence of God, which is a formidable argument, but I could go in a different direction with that.
Right.
But you really, I think of life. Life, I could just look at it. We can all look at it. We look at it however the hell we want, but really life is just one continuous the history of the universe could be just considered one long-ass day, but we break it up by going to sleep. Think about it. As I read about Keith Richards the other day, it's like, he had stayed awake for 9 days once, 9 days straight. Damn. I'm sure with the help of some really good cocaine, but and I'm sure those 9 days where there's a surreal quality to them, where we break up our lives by basically sleeping, and you wake up and you start that whole day over again, and I think that causes a perception of time. I don't think I know. We sleep a third of our life. Think about it. That's kind of unfortunate. We spend a third of our life in a sleep state, doing nothing. But of course, if we didn't, we'd die. We'd be sick, because our body has to heal, mend itself. It has to rest. But I think that forces an illusion of the speediness of time, because when you're sleeping, you go to sleep, and it doesn't seem like you're sleeping for 8 hours. Nothing's dragging. You go to sleep and you wake up and you're like, holy fuck, I just fell asleep and now it's morning,
Right.
So there goes 7 or 8 hours or whatever, just boom, just like that, just whizzing by,
And you wake up and things in the world don't stop just because you fell asleep.
Exactly.
And especially living in the information age, you click on the computer and you see all these things that happened overnight. And I think it even adds more to the perception of time living in the information age, because you figure 20 years ago stuff wasn't available at the drop of a hat at your fingertips just because you wanted it.
I know. And I think in a lot of ways it's good though, because we can make better use of our time. Like before the internet, if you wanted the answer to something, you'd have to get in your car, maybe drive to the library, maybe get on the phone and ask, call around. Now you can just Google it and you get that answer right away. Done. You can move on to something else. So we can get so much more done now,
We're so much more productive than we once were.
In some ways, it's frightening, though. It is. Like computers, like having it's a brain. It's a brain sitting on a desk. It really is a brain. It has the answer to everything. And I think in some ways, with all our ways of communicating, I think as a people we're becoming perhaps less sociable, because you don't need people as much.
I would have to agree with that.
Who was that team that won the World Series back in 12 years ago? That guy that played, and so next thing you know, you'd be standing on the front lawn, maybe talking to your neighbor and chewing on that subject, and I don't know, let's go down the street and ask Carrie, and that old front porch thing where people meet and talk, discuss things, and now you don't need all those fucking people. You just Google it and the answer's right there. So what you've done is you've eliminated an excuse to get on the phone to somebody, and I think though too, the phone can be a time waster. How many times have you called someone or someone's called you just to discuss something, but you end up on the phone for an hour with them because okay, well, now that we're here, you find yourself chit-chat, and then an hour goes by, maybe 2 hours, and then you hang up and you go, holy fuck, I'm 2 hours behind now,
Yeah, I've done that.
I've
done that.
Google doesn't waste your time. You got your answer, and you're on to the next thing.
Well, that's just it. And I've always thought that the phone was just to get and receive information anyway. I've never really have been like a phone chatter type person. On rare occasions I do, but not often.
Yeah.
And with some, even online, with some exceptions, like like I can get on the horn with Deb, and we'll ramble on for hours sometimes, and I got some family members that are the same way, but those are few and far between. Usually I just I want to find out what I need to find out, and I'm done. So
Right.
with that does come the dehumanization, because we're more plugged into the machine. So I would have to agree with that. That to me, I think, yeah, goes back to the original thing that internet is a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's it's an adjustment where I never get used to it, and in some ways it's scary because it's a portal. It's like when television came. There was before television. Families would sit around the radio.
Mm-hmm.
That was their entertainment. It sounds so Neanderthal now. But I mean, they would actually pull up chairs around the old radio, and they'd listen to those old shows, like The Shadow Knows or the comedians of the time or whatever. And then when television came along, that was a new portal to the world, and it still is.
Mm-hmm. But
I don't think television will ever be able to compete with the internet. Because like I'll watch TV. But, to me, it can't compare to, like, YouTube, man. I mean, I could spend 24 hours a day on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing all the shit that's on there.
Or even just the websites that have the older TV shows that are on it. You go to Hulu.com. You ever been there?
So where?
It's called Hulu.com.
No. Hoodoo?
Hulu. Hulu.
Oh, okay. No, I think I may have heard of it.
Yeah, it's a video streaming site, and they have like a bunch of TV shows, current and a lot of old shows on there too, where you can just watch it, click on demand, no TV required.
Right. Well, yeah, that's and how does that make it's an interesting study. I mean, because we always have been a convenience-based country.
Mm-hmm. We invented fast food.
Yeah, and so, like, when we're either evolving or devolving. I think we do a little of both as a human species, and I guess time will tell how we will become as a human race when everything is expected and delivered on demand. Because that old saying, patience is virtue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I think we're becoming. I know I'm extremely impatient, but I don't think it has to do with that little kid mentality of I want my candy and I want it now. I think it just, me personally, it's just because I'm very tired and I need a vacation and I'm burnt out.
Yeah,
I find myself going off the handle around the house just at little fucking things like, I'm not going to get into that, but I think sometimes when I'm happiest is when I'm away from the computer, I'm away from the TV, even away from the house,
mm-hmm.
and I'm just walking through the country, through the woods or along the lake. And I live out in the country up here in northern Illinois. A lot of beautiful places to escape to. That's why I hate the fucking winter. Is I don't even go outside unless I have to go to a show or something. I just hate the cold. But during the summer, when I'm just like traipsing through the woods with my dog, and I might pack a 6-pack, and I got my little spots down by the water, and I'll bring my MP3 player, and I tell you, man, those are some of my happiest times when I'm just away from all that, from all the technology.
I can completely relate to that, Pete. I got a slideshow I play on the show. I gotta go find it and load it. But it's like a half-hour slideshow where it's my walk through, because around here we got like a lot of old Civil War battlefields,
Right,
It's really a
right.
fascinating thing.
Yeah, a lot of history in your area of
yeah,
the country,
ton of-
Virginia. You're West Virginia or
I'm not in
Virginia?
West. I'm in Virginia. I'm not in West by God, Virginia. I'm in
Okay.
Virginia by God.
Well,
Uh,
Virginia is isn't that where the unknown soldiers buried, or is that Washington D.C.?
it's up by D.C. It's in Arlington,
Okay.
Virginia.
Arlington. Okay, that's in Arlington.
It's in
Yeah,
Arlington National Cemetery.
yeah.
But where I'm at right here, I could literally walk out my front door and maybe take about a half-hour hike and be in a Civil War battlefield
Right, right.
in any direction.
Right, right.
And and I can totally relate to that. When I go on these trips, I'll leave the cell phone behind. I might grab my bike, but I'll leave the cell phone behind. I don't
Right.
take anything with me. And you just and there's this one spot in particular over at I'm sure you remember the Civil War battle at Chancellorsville, right? Or remember reading about it, rather. I'm not saying you're that old, but anyway.
You can say it.
There's this one spot in particular where there's
I
never
did not
anybody
fight
around.
the Civil War myself. I didn't fight the Civil War, Jack, if that's what you're saying.
Oh, okay. But really, there's this one spot in particular where it's just absolutely, and there's never anyone around, just nothing. But you're like in the woods. It's like, but you're parked in a parking lot. There's never anyone there, and it's just like the most awesome place in the world. And I can't relate to this like you can as a musician, but in your case, it probably helps get the creative juices going because you're away from everything. You're kind of locked away from everything, and you let your mind wander, I guess.
Right, exactly. And I tell you, I mean, I wouldn't have written the songs and put out the albums I have if I didn't do those things, And I think, as there's really, there's a certain naturalness to being a human being, and yes, technology makes the world a better place in many ways, but it also, everything in moderation. I think humans, we're like animals. I mean, animals. A dog or a horse. I mean, they basically they exist. But of course, that's what puts us above the animals. We're not
Right.
content to just exist and wallow in fields and lie around. And what makes us great and exceptional is that we invent, and we're always bettering ourselves and making things more convenient. But to every action there's a reaction. We're becoming more obese as a society. Obesity wasn't the problem as recently as the 50s and 60s and even 70s as it is now. The kids are a big weight problem with kids. And why is that? Well, I think it's the conveniences. I mean, like I was at the mall yesterday, just kicking around and going up the escalator, and so things like escalators, where people used to climb stairs. Well, God forbid you should have to climb a stair, take an elevator or an escalator.
Right.
When I was a kid, my old man, we'd come back from wherever we were. He'd get out of the car, he'd walk up to this big heavy ass garage door. He'd have to really use some muscle to open up that heavy. And so it's and that has a cost on society. That has a cost.
Right.
The health issues that go with the conveniences we have. We exercise less, we walk less, we do less.
Right. I'll give you a great example, Pete. In Washington D.C., and you guys have seen it in the slideshow pictures from the zoo. Well, to get to D.C., you drive to the metro station, which is the mass transit, which is kind of a hybrid subway. It's above and below ground. And you ride this train into town, and then you get off the train and you go up this really, really steep escalator. It's like I looked up and I was like, holy shit. It was like as far as the eye could see. You took this long escalator, and you walk about 3 or 4 blocks, and you're at the zoo. And then you walk around the zoo. But, it's again, you couldn't walk something like that if it were stairs. I don't think many people could. I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
For it being so steep.
Yeah, right.
So it goes back, I think what the ultimate thing is, I'm sure you remember a song in the year 2525.
Yeah, in the year 2525. Man will barely, I don't know.
Hopefully man will be alive or something like that. I remember hearing it, once upon a time.
It's an apocalyptic,
right. But, again, it's the marrying of man and machine.
That's not that far away, really, when you think about it. 25, 25? No, 25 is a long way. Yeah,
we're still about 500 years out from it. So
yeah,
we're safe.
I'm thinking
that's not going to happen to us. 2025, yeah, maybe.
2025 is what I was thinking.
But, as the song goes on, it's that man and machine. And I think, I think that could be true, but I think it's going to be more accelerated than the song puts it. It goes right back to what we were talking about with the whole power of the internet.
Yeah.
In some, but it's a powerful tool. Again, technology has made lives better for many of us, but I prefer to remain its master.
Well, exactly, and you control your own, because you know what, you have to control every waking moment, every day. We make thousands and thousands of choices from, okay, do I brush my teeth now or do I brush them 5 minutes later? Do I wear the green socks or the black socks? Do I answer the phone? Don't I answer the phone? I think we make something like I remember reading that statistic once. Like we make literally 100 decisions even in a minute. You know what I mean?
Right.
Little things from like, okay, should I hold off on blinking? I think a lot of them are very subliminal, where it's like, oh, was that a decision? You know what I mean? Like, okay, right now when I just said, was that a decision? I waved my hands in the air, like I'm, like you could actually see me, but.
Well, it's
I made a decision. I didn't have to wave my arms in the air. That was like my brain was like just. I
just made a decision to go off a camera so I could scratch my nose, and I put the slideshow back up. Now, did I really?
I thought you were going to say scratch your nuts. I'm glad it was. Well, if you want to scratch your nuts, you could do that. But so where do you want to go on? And so like the computer. It can destroy you. I think just like crack. I think the internet.
I think so. Yeah, you've heard of internet addiction, right?
It can be crack, and because like it's unfortunate. But like an addiction is an addiction. And there's so many good things on the internet. Educational things, and I think anything can be an addiction. I mean, I'll find myself. I love to read, and I always go back to my books. I've got a big pile of books at any given time in my house, and I try to mix up what I read. I'll go to the library, I'll get a good biography, I'll get a book about science, maybe a book about religion, maybe a funny book, whatever. I try to mix it up. I try to challenge myself as a reader. I always go back to my books because to me, when I'm very exhausted and the television's making me sick or whatever, there's nothing like just kicking back on the lying on the couch and winding down the day with a good read, but yet, the internet can almost be a replacement for books because anything you can read in the library, once again, you could read. But the computer's not as comfortable. There's a coldness to it. I mean. Like here, I'm sitting in this office chair, this swizzle chair, and I'm sitting in front of my desk, and it's like, what? It's not as comfortable as just when I lie in my bed or on my couch with that book. You know what I mean? You always go back to curling up with a good book, right? So I always go back to my books, and so I'll find myself just reading and educating myself on the computer, but then. There's also the other side of the internet too, that can take you into the darkness, like pornography addiction. It's like there's and what's happening? Something like 35-40% of all Google searches is porn, and what you're doing now is you're getting into the crack cocaine end of the internet, and you're seeing more divorces. You're seeing men who even they can't even get it up anymore with their wives because they're yanking off to this bottomless pit of porn.
Hello,
and I realize the enticement because not too long ago, before the internet, you'd have to like pull into some seedy little bookstore next to a truck stop, and you'd want to sneak in there without any people in your neighborhood seeing you, because who wants to be caught dead in a fucking adult bookstore? You go in there and there's other fucking people in there, questionable people, and you want to get your girly mag and get out, and
sound like you've done this, Pete.
And well, there's only one reason why you're getting the girly mag is to yank off with it, and so that's a testament to the lacking of your own love life or ability to generate a meaningful relationship, that you gotta look at a page and yank off, and this coming from the author of Hello Hand,
right?
But yeah, so. What you're seeing now with the internet is a lot of men who would never bother, but now it's so accessible, So instead of like being down and hanging out with the kid or reading to the kid, or maybe taking the wife for a drive or a walk or something, you're addicted to these images, and it really is unhealthy. And I think. Unfortunately, what we're seeing, and it's very difficult for a teenager whose hormones are raging. Because I remember myself. Okay, yeah, I had my Playboys and stuff, but I mean,
who didn't?
But when you think about it, like the Playboys were limited. They only showed so much. They still left something to the imagination. But now, like the hardcore, smut on there now, it's so in your face, and it sucks in like crack. And I think. I don't think we've seen the full ramifications of it yet. Rape and abuse to women and things like that. There's dangerous places. This portal over the world, the internet. There's dangerous, dark places, and it can suck you in and spit you out. And you got to be careful. It's a very useful tool, but. This is just my opinion. I'm not preaching,
Right.
I'm just speaking from statistics. I know, like, think about it. Something like 40. This is true. Something like 35 to 40% of all Google searches are porn. So what is that telling you? That's telling you that almost half of Google searches are not people looking to educate themselves or better themselves, or they're looking for smut.
Right, but in a way, Pete, it's very interesting that you bring up porn, because there's a precedent for this. Now, bear with me, because I'm going to have to stretch here a little bit, but it's because of porn that the home video the whole video revolution exploded, okay? Because again, it goes back to some of the things we talk about on the show. Copyright, okay? The movie industry didn't want video cassettes because copyright infringement, potential for copyright infringement, and finally somebody said, fine, you know what? We'll just go and make movies of people fucking. I know that people will rather watch that in the privacy of their own homes, and they did. And then it helped sell video cassette recordings and the tapes and stuff. Even that served a purpose. Speaking of,
well, you know what?
Back in the 70s.
Yeah, everything serves a purpose to a point. I mean, like I say, alcohol serves a purpose, and I like to drink, but I don't drink 24 hours a day.
Right.
It's like I don't.
Drinks in moderation.
See, I don't wake up with a desire to down a six-pack. I know really, I've known hardcore alcoholics and some who are members of AA, and because they would down a six-pack on their way to work in the morning, and that's when you're far gone. That's when you're lost, and so. I think the problem with internet porn is you do want it first thing in the morning, and then you want it in the afternoon, and then you want it in the evening, you know. And I think what it comes down to is like if your kid wants you to read her a book, but all you want to do is go out and get a six-pack, then you've got a drug problem, you know. And at the same time, you know, if your little girl wants you to read her a book, but all you can think about is like, you know, you're sitting there, okay, reading her the story, but all you want to do is get done with it so you can go upstairs and yank off the porn on your computer. You've got an addiction, see?
Right.
You've got a problem. And I speak like this from experience because I believe I have an addictive personality. We probably all do, but some more than others, you know, and I try to keep my addictions in check, and the way I do that is like I just don't go there. And I made a conscientious decision probably in my 20s, you know, when because I had reached a point after my first divorce in 1981. You know, as a young man, I was like 21. I was pretty devastated by it. Looking back, it was laughable that I felt as dark as I did, but I was very devastated by it. I found myself drinking early in the day and throughout the day, and I actually wanted to become an alcoholic. I was so depressed. But I got through that. I made a conscientious decision that no, I'm not going to drink in the morning, you know, and I'm not going to, like, you know, drink in the middle of the day and that sort. And to this day, I don't, you know, unless I'm out, you know, by the lake in the summertime or I'm on vacation or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like
right.
to me. I believe, like a dog does a trick, you give it a treat, and I try to treat myself the same way. I get the work done, take care of reality, take care of business, you know, try to deal with relationships, and then party, then tie one on. But, you know, don't, because when that shit becomes your focus from morning to night, you've got that's addiction. That's where it's a problem. You know, that's where relationships fall apart, your work falls apart, your life falls apart, and the internet can be the call of the sirens. You know, I don't know if you remember. I think that was Tales of Ulysses, where they were the song of the sirens. They had to tie him.
They had to tie him to the mast. Well, the sailors were instructed. It's an old Greek tale. The sailors were instructed to cover their ears so they wouldn't hear the siren's song.
The nymphos, you know, and then come get us, and what would happen is the ship would just crash on the rocks, I believe, right? And they'd all drown.
And I think it was Ulysses also had them tie him to the mast so that he could hear the siren's song.
Right. And see, like, you know, your show and Deb's show and you know, it's productive. We talk, we learn. We fart around, and you know, and we you know, and but you know, the subject matter I mean, look at us tonight. We're talking about all kinds of things. We're talking about books. We're talking about the concepts of time.
I don't think we've left any stones unturned tonight, Pete. That's for damn sure. I don't think we've left any stone unturned tonight.
Well, we haven't talked about alien life. There's a whole other subject I'm fascinated with. But yeah, you know, it's like there's deeper things, and it's like, yeah, you know, we all, you know, we're not always in the mood to get deep, but I'm a deep thinker. I like to, I know you are, and there's just, there's so many interesting things to discuss. But I think going back to the lowest common denominator, which is whether it's hardcore porn or our low common denominator pop culture, which just assumes that we all got the minds of an 8-year-old. That's the easy way out, you know. It's easy. I know there's people like that don't want to think. It's like, don't get deep on me, you know what I mean? Because it's easier just to be like a dog, you know, and kind of just go through life, not really getting. And we all know people like that, you know, just kind of like, you know, you talk like this, and they just kind of stare at you like, I can't add anything to this.
You see the
brain
glaze
dead.
over. You see the glaze over, and they're gone. But
Yeah.
you know, all that being said, Pete, I'm looking at my Skype account here, and I'm down to my last 55 cents. So
I got you, buddy. Okay, so we'll wrap it up.
we might need to wrap this up a little bit before you get cut off.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, and then you can finish out the show doing what you want to do.
Oh yeah, well, but you know what? I really and truly do appreciate you coming on, Pete. You know, and it holds true to with like a lot of my interviews. You never know what's going to happen or what's going to get talked about. And the one thing I like is to delve into who the musician is. Let people get to know you a little better. And I could say we definitely did a little bit of that tonight.
Well, yeah, you know, you don't want to spend like 2 hours or whatever just talking about. Yeah, I can't spend 2 hours just talking about my freaking new album. I mean, after 10 minutes, we said everything. Okay, there's 11 songs we talked about. We're talking about something else. And I know nothing bores me more sometimes than listening to musicians just go on and on and on about the studio and what kind of amps they use and what kind of guitar strings their bass player. It's like, are we really that interested in that? You know, maybe for a while.
Yeah, for a while.
That's why I could spend. I tell you, you know, like I would love to do a show like you do. I don't think I could commit to it with my schedule and everything because you kind of have some regularity. But I swear I would love to do and just do this kind of thing. Just have people call in and just talk about. I mean, religion and space and. You know, the concept of time, all the things we talked about here. These are things that I could just, oh God, I mean, I could never stop. It's eternal. It's fun stuff. Or just books. I would love to do a show like call it all about books or whatever, the love of reading, and just have people just talking about books because I love the written word. I love literature, and you know, libraries are with all this talk about the internet. To me, libraries are still the best places. They're great places. You know, I love libraries. I just love libraries.
Yeah, it goes back to the whole Jeffersonian. Thomas Jefferson said that, you know, a young man starting out in life, the only capital he has is books, and it's the most important capital he'll ever have.
Yeah, books are wonderful. And, you know, people don't read enough. Even people that buy books don't finish them. Another statistic, too many statistics. 10% of people think there's too many statistics. That's a joke. But anyway, I think something like even people that buy books don't even finish them. Only 10% of people that actually will buy a book will actually finish. Can you imagine? And the average new release at a Borders, your brand new hardcover release, you know, like in the new release section, is like $25 to $30.
Right.
I couldn't see spending that kind of money for a book and not finishing it. But
nor I
people
myself.
Because they're ADD. They don't have the patience to get through 300 or 400 pages. You know.
Right.
All right, buddy. Well, cut me off whenever you do. I don't want to ramble on again and run over. And so thanks for having me.
Pete, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it was nice, Jack. Thank you. Happy holidays to you
same to you, man.
Everyone else out there. And as we wrap up this year, look forward to our continued friendship in the new year, man.
Oh, hell yeah. You better believe it, brother.
All right, brother.
But anyway, Pete, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Do appreciate it, and I'll be talking at you soon, all right?
All right, later, buddy. And
later.
Everybody out there, love you all. Have a great holiday and Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Happy holiday and Happy New Year to you too, Pete. Oh, he's gone. All right. Wow, that came almost to the wire. I'm down to like my last 48 cents on the Skype account. Whoa.